So, Dan, how do you play this as an investor? If you were looking for some light here, and you presumably had it in October, that maybe we had gone too far, maybe not. What do you think?
Well, I think that Jay Powell is going to continue, if he keeps his word, to raise interest rates. And the reason for that is simple. What he's doing hasn't worked so far, and they seem very much motivated to continue until inflation is under control. But let me tell you why inflation is not going to get under control so quickly. It's based upon energy policies. That's what I believe, because if you look how Joe Biden is handling this, he doesn't have a good relationship with Saudi Arabia or OPEC Plus, and he's also battling with American oil. So if you're going to have all this bad will with who's producing oil, how are you going to be able to get energy costs down? You're not, and that's why inflation is going to remain in place.
You know, Danielle, when I had Mick Mulvaney here yesterday, Donald Trump's former budget director, he worried that the Federal Reserve is kind of hamstrung here, that it probably wants to be aggressive on inflation, but looking at the 31 trillion plus in debt we have, he knows that any incremental hike is going to add billions to that debt. At the rate we're going, 180 to 200 billion now as things stand, and still higher. So that is going to be their forced pivot. They're not going to want to do it, but they're going to have to do it, because the alternative is just to take a debt that's already explosive and really exploded. What do you think?
Well, you know, shame on the Congress, Neil. Unlike Great Britain, to take but one example, that used the lowest interest rates in 5,000 years to extend out the maturities and end up with lower interest service costs for the country. In the long term, the United States, for generations, has chosen to keep the shortest rates, which means we'll be rolling over the debt very quickly, and interest service costs are going to tie the new Congress's hands going forward. Even if the economy does fall into a deep recession, they're going to be very hard-pressed to spend more money because it costs so much to service it, and that does indeed put the Fed in a quandary, to Mr. Mulvaney's point.
So, Dan, if that's the case and the Fed eases up, it would be for all the wrong reasons, right?
Well, it would be, because really this should not be the Fed's problem. And what Danielle was just saying, it's because Congress, Republicans and Democrats, have spent wildly. If they weren't doing that, and the reason they were doing it because they essentially had free money all this time, right? So now interest rates are going up. What really should be happening is the spending should get curbed. It really shouldn't be the Fed thinking about that issue. So it's all wrong.
All right, guys, I'm going to be chatting with you a little later in the show, follow up on some of these subjects here in the meantime. But let me, Dan, get your view on this, because you're just as brilliant. What are we getting wrong, or what might Republicans get wrong if they overplay their hand? Maybe they won't. But what do you suggest? What would you like to see?
Well, what we're going to see, Neil, is we're going to see gridlock, because if the Republicans control Congress, they're going to make sure that Joe Biden is not going to get anything that he wants. So the way the Republicans can overplay that hand is because they're controlling Congress and nothing gets done, which, by the way, the market will like a lot. Voters may see that as, well, you guys have Congress, you're not getting anything done. So then when we get into 2024, you know, the Democrats are going to have something to run on, saying, listen, the Republicans didn't get anything done. We need to get back into power again. And people have a short memory, Neil, so they may buy into that.
We'll watch closely. Guys, I want to thank you both very, very much.